I've got 3 pens here that are all thin, fine-lined pens, and let's just see what they want me to draw with them today. This is a Schaefer Triumph nibbed pen and a Schaefer 33 or Craftsman or whatever they call this one, and a Waterman Taperite. This is probably the least thin, the broadest of the thin. And I think it is. And I'm drawing a face of some sort. And I'm drawing a face for no particular reason. I just wanted to draw with you guys, for you guys, with these pens. I have real work I have to do, but that's not as much fun as drawing this. My real work, right now I'm waiting for the client to get back in touch with me so I can finish the job. Oftentimes it's waiting. Okay, so there's a face that only a mother could love. Oh, well, you can see clearly now the rain is... Anyway, this pen is much finer. This one does have a little bit of flex to it. You can see that there's variety in between the finest lines I make and the broadest lines I can make. I think you can see that. Yes, you can. Again, the camera is under one of my chins, and I really can't quite see it without moving my head and everything. You know, this is a face only a blind mother could love. Okay. Let's try this one. This will be the firmest. Each of these have a little bit of flex. This will have the least amount of flex. It has that, and that's not a flex, that's just a blob of ink. I'm dipping these, so I can certainly fill them. I'm just dipping them so I don't have to fill them. Each of these pens I can draw with joy, I'll say. If you know what it can do and know what it can't do, if you know the limitations of the pen, the tool you have, you can work within it to make whatever kind of drawing it sort of allows you to make. This one, though, the joy is subtle because of its very minimal flex to it. I don't want to say that it's not a pleasure to draw with it. It's a perfectly lovely pen to draw with. It would make me... What sort of drawing would this pen really want me to draw? It's not supposed to do that. Ignore that. Pretend that didn't happen. The reason that happened is because I dipped it, and this whole inside area there is just full of ink, and Normally the feed and the delivery, ink delivery system would not make that happen. But because I just dipped it, it was over full. Anyway, I was telling you before this happened, before I was channeling my Jackson Pollock within, I was telling you the kind of drawing that this would, I would use this pen in the same way that I use Parker 51s to draw. Parker 51s have minimal, if zero, there's no flexibility really in the line that they make. It's a very geometric Euclidean line that comes from my point. And this is that kind of a line. So if I were an engineer, or if I were trying to draw a plan of how I was going to, enlarge my garage to contain the big freezers for my victims, I would draw with one of these things. And because I would be able to it would keep my mind focused on the task at hand. I would not be distracted by the beautiful lines that a calligraphic pen might make. Here's one freezer, and should I put the other freezer here? Or should I put the freezer like this? Should I have them go sort of this way so I can, examine the contents without having to, or I don't know, maybe I would place my freezers in a different orientation. This pen, the Johnny One-Notedness of this pen would keep my mind focused on the task. Whereas if I had a pen that had a flexible nib, I can be very easily distracted and start drawing other things. So this would be a pen maybe for an engineer. This could be a pen also for someone who likes to draw very small drawings. Let's say you're an engraver, and you have retired from the engraving world. The drawings, and yet you know how to draw, and you're tired of drawing dead white guys for currency or postage stamps or whatever you do, and you want to do just drawings of live people. And you might, because you're completely, I don't want to say brainwashed, your brain and your hand and everything is completely used to drawing very, very small little tiny lines, and this would be a great pen for that. You could do many, many drawings on one small piece of paper because you have this very thin line. Inky finger. I put my finger in my puddle of Jackson Pollocky ink there. This one, that same engraver turned Sunday painter, Sunday drawer, this might be too broad a line. In fact, this isn't really fine at all, though when you turn it upside down, it is very fine. It's a very satisfying fine. Almost any pen you can turn upside down and right on the back, and you'll get a finer line for a couple of reasons. One, the shape of the line, the shape of the iridium ball that you're writing on might be slightly different. But the main thing is when you draw this way, you can press down, and the tines will split, and you'll make a thicker line. You can't press down when you're on your back like this, because it tightens up. And if it tightened up and made a thinner line, that would be great, but it tightens up and ink doesn't flow. But this pen really is really sweet when you turn it upside down, because there are lines I'm making. I think you can see them there. And this would make, this is just really, really nice. You know, this particular pen, if it does end up in the hands of someone other than me, I hope that they take advantage of turning it upside down a lot, because it's almost like having two pens in one. I know that they have these nibbed pens that have this very strange nib. Here's the nib, you know, the point of the nib. And you can, it's shaped in a weird way, and I forget exactly how weird it is, but it's weird. You, by rotating the pen, not rotating, by changing the angle of the pen from vertical to 45 degrees, you get thicker or thinner or thicker lines. So it's sort of like a stick shift in a car, in a standard car, you know, first, second, third gear. But it's just, I would think it would be very difficult to continually hold your hand vertically, or whatever angle you want. I think I think the design is interesting, but I don't think it's very natural. It's not a natural way to draw, or to write for that matter. I don't think. I think it's restricting and constricting. Restrictive and constricting. So this is a really, really neat pen for, you know, I might just want to keep this one. Now when I say I want to keep pens, it means that essentially that I haven't been able to say goodbye to it yet. I'm sure I have another pen that has the same model that does the same thing. I did a video that is on YouTube already that shows me looking at all of these Waterman Taper-Rite Stately's that I own, and deciding which ones I could say goodbye to. And I said goodbye to this one for very good reasons at the time. But now when I'm writing with it again, I'm thinking, I'm not ready to say goodbye to it yet. It's very sad. I'm a very sad and very lucky. No, but I do want to say goodbye to this pen, because I know that there's someone out there in the TV land, someone out there that is going to be very happy, is happy with this pen, or happier with this pen than I am with it. And if I can make you happy and make me slightly, I don't want to say richer or wealthier, because this will allow me to pay. Why did that happen? My Jackson Pollock is really, I mean, that normally never ever happens. I don't know why. What am I doing now? It will allow me to pay my electric bill, or my phone bill, or my something bill. And so I'm not selling these things so I can buy yet another mega mansion, or a yacht, or something like that. I'm buying it so that I can make you happy and pay a bill. And I think, just between you and me, don't tell Verizon this, but it's more interesting to me that you're happy than Verizon gets paid. I had a teacher in grad school who loved talking, and he said that whenever he would get a phone call from the electric company or something talking about the electric company needing to be paid because he hadn't paid his bill, he would say, well, you're a huge electric company. I don't think you'd have any need for money. And then he would hang up the phone. And then they'd call back and he'd say, well, that's what my wife is the one that pays the bills. You have to talk to her. And he would hang up the phone. But for me, it's much more fun to make you happy than to make Verizon a little tiny bit wealthier. See, this is another pen that I would be happy not to say goodbye to. Right now, this is just a delight to use, and I may have 10 others that will do the same kind of thing in my collection of pens, but there's something nice about, here's just another aside that doesn't mean anything. This is a Schaefer pen that almost every single collector in the pen collecting world would not even, if they saw this at a flea market, they wouldn't even stop to look. Even if it was on a dollar table, they might not even bother to stop and buy it for $1, because it's a little bit more modern, and because it's a very common pen. These were made for students, but this point, and I'm just telling you right now, and you have to believe me, is better than any fountain pen that's manufactured today. It's finer than any pen that they make today. Any, period. No matter how much you pay for it. Because back in 1956, or whenever this was made, they knew how to make pens in Fort Madison, Iowa, where the Schaefer Pen Company was. And this is an example of one of those pens that they knew how to make. This nib is just really a delight. And but because it's such a common pen, and relatively modern and relatively humble, a pen collector will want the rarer, larger, whatever. This is the furthest away from a upside down airplane postage stamp as you can get. I don't know my stamp collecting to know what a common, this is one of those flag stamps, except it's just, this is one of those Lincoln 4-cent stamps. Every stamp collector has more than they'd ever want of those because they were so common. But this one has a really, really sweet nib on it. And I recognize that. I'm very happy with this pen. I'm not happy with the drawings I'm doing with it, though. So these 3 pens, I will start putting these pens up on my Flickr page with with examples of, I'll draw something with them and I'll measure how many, I'll draw something that's an inch square or something. I don't know what. I'll make it a standardized size, and I'll show on this, the line quality that they have. I might even do how many lines, distinct lines, can I get in an inch of, I think this is the one that can do 140 lines in an inch. And let you know what the prices are and things like that. because I really do think it's time that some of these pens leave me and get into your hands and your pockets. Look at this thing. This is going to be the hardest one to say goodbye to. It's really neat. But whoever gets this pen, they're getting 2 pens for the price of 1. Anyway, that's the plan. Those 3 pens. The first that I'm going to try to offer for sale in a logical way. I had a request that I start putting these on my website, and I don't have the ability to do that, but I can put them on my Flickr page. So, thank you very much. Toodaloo.